Me at all? How many of you have spoken on stage before? Oh, quite a bit. All right. So I was secretly sitting down there, because you're going second after somebody, kind of secretly sitting down there going, I hope she's like good, but not too good. Right? And then she's going, really good. Then you got to follow that, right? And you got to try to somehow, keep the momentum going of what she was doing. And there was just so many times in her talk where I was like, yes, I almost clapped, and like let out a little, just a little screech a couple times. With what was she saying? Something about, where you can't, the people who don't even start, and then they're like, well, I didn't want to pay for something that I haven't been able to be successful, and you're like, wait a minute. Did you do the training? One gal actually told me, she said, well, it was boring. Yeah. Well, so anyway, I'm going to talk about something that I love, and it's going to involve a whole bunch of spreadsheets, because I'm an engineer, so I hope you guys like spreadsheets. Does everybody like spreadsheets? I'm totally kidding, there's no spreadsheets. No spreadsheets, I promise, okay? But one of the things that happens at all of these events, I'm going to ask you guys, what is the number one, this is kind of a hard question, but number one overall topic would you say that people always, if there was one thing that tied all the things together that we always hear at Super Saturdays, what's the topic that everybody's talking about?
Recruiting.
Consistency, okay. Why? Okay, so what I'm going for is mindset. Okay, everything is about your mindset. Right? If you look at every topic that they're talking about, she talks about consistency. Someone who says, well, I just wasn't successful, so I didn't want to pay for something. Their mindset was wrong, right? It's not that they didn't have the capability to do it. Their mindset was wrong, that the training was too boring. It was but you couldn't see the big picture. You couldn't see the big picture, that all you had to do was 2 1-hour lessons that were boring, and then you would be able to stay home with your kid. That's a mindset thing there, right? It's a mindset thing. So I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about mindset, and then I will also give you one particular tip. These 3 things that I'm going to talk about don't necessarily flow together perfectly, but when I was thinking about what am I going to talk about, these were the 3 things that came to my mind that I think every coach needs to have for mindset and for when they're talking to people, okay? So the first 2 are analogies, okay? So farming versus hunting, okay? Some of you out there that are here today are treating your business like you're a hunter, okay? And if you think about a hunter, let's think about a tree stand hunter, okay? You're waiting for deer to come along, you're sitting up in a tree stand. How many hunters? Any hunters? Yeah, okay, so you're sitting up in a tree stand, and that deer comes along, and bam, you shoot him. Okay. The other day, I commented on a friend's post. He's a triathlete like I am. I commented on the post. Almost immediately, I get a friend request from one of his mutual friends. Right. So I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know who this is. Maybe another triathlete. I don't know. Maybe something I said was amazing. And I don't know. So they friend request me. And then I also get a message request before I accept the friend request. So in other words, they sent me a message before I accepted the friend request, right? So I look at the message, and it's from a Nerium rep. You guys know what Nerium is? Okay, so I don't have anything necessarily against the company itself, but I've run into, I don't know what they're teaching over there, but it was a message that I had to scroll on Messenger to read all of. Listen, if you're talking to somebody about business, first tip, if they have to scroll to read your message, you're doing it wrong, okay? It's a dialogue between you and them, and they shouldn't have to scroll for dialogue, right? That's just all you talking. So I have to scroll to read this message, and she wanted to sell me some EHT brain function supplement or something like that, and had all this stuff about how I know that you're into sports and all this stuff, and I don't know if you've ever done multi-level marketing, but this is great, and you should join my team in this EHT, and we have the patent on it, and no one else will be able to duplicate it, and it'll be this and it'll be that, and it's been great for me. And it was like, you didn't even take the time to look at that right in my profile. It says Star Diamond Coach with Beachbody. and you're asking me if I've ever even looked at MLM? Okay, this is a hunter. Okay? They're sitting in a tree stand waiting for someone to comment on one of their friends' posts, and they're like, oh, a deer! Okay? That is not the way to do this business. Don't do that, okay? Some of you, I know some of you out there are like, I've done that. That's okay, you can recover from that. It's all right, okay? Now, what does a farmer do?
Plant seeds.
From the time the farmer starts to the time when they actually get the crop is not like the hunter where they shoot and bam, right? You plant seeds. Well, first you got to prepare the ground, right? First you got to even prepare the ground, right? I'm not a farmer, so this may not be, the perfect analogy. Right? You get the idea, right? Okay, you prepare the ground, you plant the seeds, you got to water, you got to take care of the crop for months until you get a harvest. Sometimes the harvest is not as good, even though you did all the exact same things, right? Sometimes it's really good, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing. You do all the same things next time, it's not quite as good. So what are the things, like, if you want to take the analogy further, what would preparing the ground be like in your business? Somebody. Training would be a great one to, there's lots of ways you could do this analogy, but training would be a great way that you're preparing the ground, like you're learning about being a coach. Maybe going to events like this is preparing the ground. You're not actually out there talking, some of you are on your phone talking to people, but you're not actually out there talking to people right now, you're preparing the ground, right? And then the seeds planted are like some of those posts you do about, I'm up at 5 a.m. doing my workout. That's a seed planted, right? Somebody out there sees that seed, right? Now they comment on your post, don't shoot them. Okay? It's just a seed planted. Okay? And then you water the seed by having an actual dialogue and a conversation with that person that commented on your post. What do you do for workout? Oh, you're doing CrossFit, that's great. You should do Beachbody, here's my link. No! Okay? It's farming, it takes time. You go through it over and over and over again. You plant the seeds, you water the seeds, you weed the crop, you try different soils. Sometimes it's bad soils. Have you guys ever heard Jim Rohn talk about the seeds that fall on good soil, the seeds that fall on bad soil, the thorns? He takes the Bible and uses that analogy as, sometimes you put a post out there and it falls on bad soil and it doesn't do anything. Or sometimes it falls on shallow soil and it sprouts up really quick and then it goes away. You can apply that same analogy. Okay? So farming versus hunting. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, don't be a hunter. Don't be a hunter. Okay? Next analogy. The train analogy. This I actually like this one just as well or better. Okay, so have you ever been the driver and taken people to a party? Okay. Not all parties involve alcohol. You're all like, yes, I had to do that. I was designated. I didn't even get to drink a thing. Okay. But you're the driver, right? So if you took people to the party, this is part of the analogy. If you take people to the party and then you leave and you got the car, you just totally abandon those people, right? Okay, that's what being a coach is a lot like taking a bunch of people to a party and you're the driver, right? You bring people into your challenge group, you have to do it too, right? Otherwise you just left the party and everybody's stranded there, okay? But the train analogy really is that you're on a train, and let's just say that city back there is, the name of that city is Results City, and you're on your way, okay? You're on the train to Results City, and you have open seats on the train, okay? And every stop, you reach out your hand to the people at the stop, and you go, do you want to go with me? That's how you treat your business. Do you want to go with me? Do you want to go with me? They say no? Okay. Do you get off the train because when you stop at a stop, do you get off the train because everybody at that stop said, no, I don't want to go? You're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be on the train either. Maybe I should get off the train. No, you're like, no, that's okay. No, I know where I'm going. I'm headed to Results City. It's amazing. It's awesome. And I'm inviting you to go with me, okay? So some of you are thinking that you have to be a convincer. You have to tell them everything about Results City. Like, you're handing out flyers of all the things that are in Results City. Here's all the things you'll get if you jump on the train with me, It's not like that. It's not about convincing. It's about offering opportunity, okay? So you have an opportunity. It's something that worked for you, and you want to invite people on that opportunity with you. You're not a convincer. You're not a salesperson like you think of salespeople, right? What you think of salespeople is people who talk slick enough to get someone else to do something. That's not what you are. You're just someone who's doing something, who has an amazing opportunity. How many of you love the opportunity that you have to offer to other people? If you're not raising your hand, I don't know why you're here. If you don't like this, don't come. You know, and that is the mindset that you need to have, is if you don't like this, quit. Like, I'm telling you, if you don't like Beachbody, you don't like Shakeology, you don't like the workouts, then don't be a coach, right? I don't want anybody on my team who doesn't want to be on my team, and so why would I convince people to be on my team who don't want to be on my team? I just tell them how awesome it is and how much I love it, and I offer to take them with me. Okay? So that's the train analogy. You're on a train, you got empty seats, and every time you stop, you ask somebody if they want to come on. Does that help too? That helpful? All right. Last thing. Now this is not an analogy about mindset necessarily. Well, maybe it is. But one of the biggest tips that I give my coaches about talking to people and having that dialogue with people is a concept called matching. Okay? Imagine if somebody said to you, Shakeology is too expensive. No one's ever said that to you, right? Okay. Now, the typical answer that I see from new coaches, and actually a lot of seasoned coaches, is a mismatching answer. Okay, and what I mean by that is someone says something and you mismatch it with the opposite thing. They say it's this way and you say it's not that way. Okay? When was the last time you said to someone it's this way and they said it's not that way and you went, oh, you're right? No, you're like, dig the heels in. It is the way I said it was. Even if you see that they're right, you dig your heels in. That's exactly what happens when you do this. Somebody says, I just can't afford Shakeology, it's too expensive. And you go, well, it's not too expensive. I know that you spend this much at Starbucks every day. Okay, the concept here is that what you've done is you've opposed them and you've put yourself on the opposite side from them. So now you're opponents and you're trying to beat them. Switch that up, and you are an advocate for them, and you're on the same team, and you're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to put a puzzle together, the two of you. Okay? So a different way to answer that question is, I felt exactly the same way that you did. How many of you have heard this before? This way to talk to people. Okay? I felt the exact same way you did before, because almost everyone in this room said the same thing about Shakeology when they first got introduced to it. They at least thought in their head, even if they didn't say, wow, that's kind of expensive. It's $129 a month, $119 if you were being a coach when I did. You said that. So what you say is not a lie, it's the truth. You say, I felt like that too. Here's what I found after a little while and why I decided to try it. So now you're on the same side with that person. You both on the same side trying to figure out the answer to a problem, right? Now, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to buy because you came on the same side with them. But don't ever put yourself as an opponent of someone. When someone says it's this way, don't say no, it's not, and here's why, because you're never going to convince anyone of that. You say, oh, okay, well, tell me more about that. Like, why is it that you think that way? Why is it that you don't feel like you have time? What does your day look like? Don't say, like Jess was talking about, a lot of people say they don't have time. Don't say, oh yes you do. You said you work and you have this job and that job. Well, I do this, and this, and so I know you must have time if I have time. That's never going to convince anybody. You say, well, let's take a look at your schedule. Where could you fit in some extra time? Let's solve this problem together. Okay, and that's what I call matching. You match what they say instead of mismatching what they say. Okay, so there's my 3 things. Hunting versus farming, be a farmer and not a hunter. Offer opportunity, don't try to convince people. And never oppose people. Never try to oppose people. Unless you don't want them to join. That's a great way to not get them to join. It's a mismatch. Okay? So that's all I got for you.